Hello, Jalan. So in yesterday's class, we have studied how the male gametophyte is produced or developed. Okay, we have studied about the angiosperms, the flower, importance of flower, various parts of the flower, and then we have studied that the anther and the stigma are the two parts which are sexual reproduction involved in the sexual reproduction, and then anther we have studied that are the male reproductive part which are producing pollen grain as a male gametophyte. And today we are going to study about the gynoecium, that is the pistil, that is the what you call carpels, and which produces megasporangium, that is the ovule and the embryo sac. Now, question that is what is pistil? Pistil is the female reproductive part, which is consist of three parts, that is the stigma, style, and the ovaries. Okay. Now, if there is only one pistil found in any plant, then it is called monocarpellary. If there are more than one pistil are there, then this is called multicarpellary. When the multicarpellary conditions are there, all the carpels may come together and they form one group or one bunch. Then it is called the syncarpous condition. And if they are forming more than, that is, they are found separated, then they are called apocarpus. Now, when they are grouped together, so they may come together to form one group, that will be called as monoidelphus. If they are forming two groups, they are called diadelphous. And like that, the different conditions will be there. Let's talk about these four terms I already explained you. Monocarpellary, when single carpel is there, more than one carpel. Multicarpellary, if the carpels are fused together, it is syncarpus. If they are free, they are separated, then they are called syncarpus. Free together, they may be found. They may be sometimes found fused with the other parts also. Okay? But that is very rare case. Now, each pistil has three parts, that is the stigma, style, and the ovary. The stigma serves as the landing platform for the pollen grain. The stigma is the tallest part, the outermost part, that is the part which is hanging outside, that is the part which is coming out of the plant. And these stigma are the part where the pollen grain falls. Because whenever any visitor is there, maybe bees, maybe butterfly, maybe wasp, maybe birds or any other organism which is bringing the pollen grains, these are the first thing which encounter them. Or when they are exposed to the abiotic factor, maybe wind or water, then also they are exposed to outside. So they are the things which are receiving the pollen grain. Okay, so stigma is the part where the pollen grain falls, lands, and that is why it called the landing platform. Stigma is also serving another condition, that is the germination. That it is providing some suitable secretions, some suitable chemicals, some suitable substances which promotes the germination of the pollen grain. So pollen grain will germinate only when these suitable chemicals are there. Otherwise, they will not germinate. Later in the same chapter, we'll study that is the stigma will allow the germination only of the same type, that is the compatible type. Okay, that is there are different conditions are there which will deal there. So stigma is actually responsible that what pollen will germinate there, what pollen will not be germinated there, which pollen to be get nutritious chemicals and which should not be and all. Okay. Later is the style. Style is a long tube, elongated tube, slender tube, which is actually connecting the stigma to the ovary. So style is only a connecting link between these two, and it's a hollow tube through which the pollen tubes can grow. The basal bulged part, this is called as ovary. Ovary is actually the part where the ovules are found, and the ovary after fertilization matures into a fruit. Okay, inside ovary, the ovarian cavities are there, locules are there. You might have seen, you might have seen what is called orange or lime, where number of this thing and the parts are there. Each one also is actually made up of one locule. Okay, so you can see there are around 10 to 15 locules, 16 locules. Okay, if you see a pea, that pod, so it is one single locule on which number of ovules are there. Okay, so there are different plants which are showing different degree of variation. The placenta is located inside the ovarian cavity on which the ovules will be found attached. Recall the definition and the types of placenta which you already studied in class 11th, and we have studied the different type of placentas there. Okay, so uh, see, we are actually having a continuation of class 11. So it is expected that you know everything which you have studied in class 11. Okay, so arising from the placenta, the microsporangia are there, commonly known as ovules. Ovules are those parts which are actually developed into seeds. So you can have a direct relationship between the ovules and the number of seeds. So suppose if a plant is having one ovule, it will produce one seed, as in case of mango, as in case of wheat, as in case of some of other monocot plants are there. Then the two ovules are there, like in chiku or sometime in grapes and all. Sometimes we find there are number of ovules are there because in papaya, like in watermelon, marshmallow, and poppy, there are infinite number of. Okay, so that is the direct link between them. Let us study about the microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis. Okay, so the megasporangium, that is the ovule. Okay, how the structure is. Let us familiarize ourselves with the structure of a typical angiosperm ovule. The structure is given here, but better structure is given here on this page, or rather, you might have studied in the class 10th also. So please draw and practice that diagram. Let us see where it is here. Here, so you can see the three part of the pistil, that is the stigma and the style. This is the style, and this is the ovary, and inside ovary there is a ovule. This is the ovule, and this particular inside the enclosed structure is there, that is called ovisac. Inside the ovisac you will find three cells of the antipodal cell, three cells at the micropylar end. Micropyle is that part through which the pollen tube enters. Here you can see this pink color pollen tube is entering through this end, so that end is called micropylar end, and opposite to the micropylar, that end is there, that is called chaliceal end. So in the chaliceal end, three cells are found, they are called antipodal cell. In between there are two cells are there which are later on fused together and form one cell, that is called polynuclei, because it has got two nuclei but one cell. And then the three cells which are found at the micropylar end, out of that, the lower two cells are called synergids, and the top one is called egg cell. And altogether, the egg cell and synergids collectively called as egg apparatus. Okay. Then this entire structure of the ovule is found attached to the ovary through a stalk. That stalk is called funicle. And the place where this funicle is found attached to the integuments. Now, integuments also I must show you from here on this diagram. Integuments. Integuments are the covering which is covering the ovule. So later on, when the seed is formed, they will be forming the seed cover, seed coats. Okay. Here so you can't see integuments. The integuments will see in this diagram only, which we are on, which page we are on. So okay, so that entire structure which we have seen in the previous diagram, it is just reversed. Okay, so when it is reversed, such type of ovary is called anatropous. Here it is written, that is the anatropous ovule. Okay, so it is anatropous ovule, the funicle, that is the stalk, and that attachment, that is the hilum, and this particular structure is ovule, and this particular structure is ovisac or embryo sac. In the embryo sac, the 8 cells are there, or rather 7 cells are there. The opening is called micropyle, and these two overlapping structure which you can see here, the lip-like structure, they are called integument. The two integuments generally found, that is the outer integument and the inner integument. And the cells which are there, they are called nucellus. Okay, so that is what the structure is. Okay, now the structure we have studied: the hilum, funicle, integument, micropyle, chaliza, and nucellus. These all things we have studied. Embryo sac we have studied. Female gametophyte we have studied. Okay, now let us talk about the microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis. Why? You children, you remember mega and micro. Micro is means small and mega is big one. Microsporangium, we are microsporogenesis when we are talking about the male gamete, and megasporogenesis when we are talking about the formation of the female gamete. Female gamete is the female gamete is always large in size because it stores certain amount of food, not very much, but it contains a certain amount of food, and that is why it appears large in size. Whereas the megaspore is just in the form of small pollen, so that is very microscopic structure. Okay. The process of formation of the megaspore from the megaspore mother cell is called megasporogenesis. The formation of megaspore from the mm, मेगास्पोर मदर सेल. नाउ मेगास्पोर मदर सेल कहाँ से आई? न्यूसिलस जो है वो जो ओवरी के अंदर जो टिश्यूज हैं सेंटर में, दो सेल्स आर कॉल्ड न्यूसिलस. द न्यूसिलस सेल्स आर rich in nutrients. Okay, now some of the nucellus जो है they become potent for the meiosis and they undergo meiotic division and further development. उनको हम कहेंगे megaspore mother cell MMC. Microspore mother cell were also known as MMC. So when we are to elaborate it, when you are specifying. Okay, ovules generally differentiate a single megaspore mother cell from a single megaspore mother cell in the micropylar region. Which side? In the micropyle. So now we can study the diagram here. See, these are the nucellus cells, and one of the cell is become big, and this is called megaspore mother cell. So megaspore mother cells will undergo meiosis, so that is why it is known as meiocyte. Now this cell will form undergo meiosis and it will produce two haploid cell here. So this is first meiotic division, which result the reduction. So diploid cell will produce haploid two nuclei, or rather two cells. Both the cells will again undergo second meiotic division and the four haploid cells will form. When the four haploid cells are formed, it is called megaspore tetrad. When only two cells were there, they were called as megaspore dyad. Now, in most of the angiosperm, there is a unique characteristic is seen, that is out of these four megaspore tetrad or four megaspore cells, three generally degenerate. And the further development will take place from one single megaspore mother cell. Sorry, tetrad cell. तो वन सेल जो बची है उसी से डिवीजन होगा. यहाँ देखिए, दिस मेथड ऑफ एम्ब्रियोसाइक फॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम सिंगल मेगास्पोर इज नॉन एज मोनोस्पेरिक डेवलपमेंट. So in angiosperm, the single megaspore will further develop into the ovule, that is known as monosporic development. So suppose this one is remain, other three are degenerated. This will now undergo three mitotic division consequently, that is in continuously. And these three mitotic division are free nuclear division. They will not followed by the cell wall formation. They will not followed by the cytoplasmic division. So first mitotic division will form two haploid nuclei. Second mitotic division will form from each again two, that is the four haploid nuclei. And the third mitotic division will form the 8 haploid nuclei. So 8 nuclei are there. Remember, these nuclei, these division are pre-nuclear division. Cytoplasm is not formed yet. Now the cytoplasm formation will begin. And the three of the cells toward the micropylar end, they will form two synergid and one egg cell. Collectively, they are forming the egg apparatus. Two of these cells come at the center of the cells, and they form the what you call micropylar polar nuclei. Okay, and the three which goes in the opposite direction, that is chaliceal end, they form antipodal cells. Okay, so this is how the arrangement we can see, that is the synergids and egg cell, they will collectively form the egg apparatus, the polar nuclei which are found at the center, and the antipodal cells that is toward the chaliceal end. Okay, so these are the various type of cells and their arrangement. Okay, so of the nucleus, and it is large cell containing dense cytoplasm on the prominent nucleus. The MMC undergo meiotic division. So this further we have already studied now all these things. So I am not confusing you anymore. So we have already studied that how the four cells are formed, out of that three degenerate and further development take place from one cell. This is called monospheric development, and then the nucleus divide three times by mitosis. First it will form two nuclei and then four nuclei and then the eight nuclei, and the eight nuclei will arrange themselves in such a way 3 plus 3 plus 2. Three in the micropilar end, three in the chaliceal end, and two at the center. And then the two cells of the center, they fuse together to form polar nuclei, and that is how we'll get 8 nucleate but 7 cell stage. Now next is pollination. Pollination is an event in when the pollen grains from the anther are transferred to the stigma. Okay. Now pollination that is very important event of any plant, because without pollination fertilization cannot occur, and then the further changes whatever has to be taken place in the plant life will not be able to done. Now pollination can be of two types, that is the self pollination and the cross pollination. And the self pollination again is of two types, that is autogamy and heterogamy. Now what are these terms? Autogamy, that is when the pollen are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same plant, same flower. Anther to the stigma of same flower. It is called autogamy. Okay, autogamy is one of the most easiest method for the plants, so that they need not to search for the pollen here and there. Rather, both the male and the female organs are found on the same plant. Most of the plants in the flower, most of the flowers are actually bisexual flower, where the male and female organs are found in the close proximity. So there are most of the chances where the pollen from the same plant can fertilize the stigma of the same plant. So such cases are called autogamy. When autogamy has to occur, three things are very, very important. First of all, the male and the female organ should be in the close proximity. Secondly, they should mature at more or less same time, so that no sooner the pollen grains are released at the same time, the stigma should also become receptacle. So all these things are very important for the autogamy to occur. Next to autogamy is there is another type of pollination, that is called geitonogamy. But before studying about the geitonogamy, we should study about the two different type of flower, that is the chesmogamous and clistogamous flower. Now, what are chesmogamous flowers? Chesmogamous flowers are those flowers which are open and they are exposed, where their anthers and stigma are exposed to any type of agents. So, the pollen grain can transfer from anywhere into any of the stigma. Such a type of pollination is called such a type of flowers are called chesmogamous. Whereas the clistogamous are those flowers which are closed and where the pollen from outside cannot enter. Such a type of flowers are called clistogamous. Now, there are some of the species like Viola, Oxalis, and Commelia. These are those plants which produce two type of flower, that is the chesmogamous flower and clistogamous flower. Chesmogamous flower are open, they are exposed to both all type of agents, that biotic and abiotic, and but the clistogamous plants are those bearing those flowers which are closed and where no outside agent can go. So clistogamous flower will definitely undergo fertilization, but they will not show variation or not show much of variation, because the pollen and the stigma both of the same plant are there, which are producing the gametes, and the gametes are fusing there. Okay, so clistogamous flower जो है that is having an advantage and a disadvantage. Advantage तो ये हो गया कि उसमें pollination होके ही रहेगा, it is assured. But disadvantage क्या हो गया कि it will have lesser type of variation. Okay, third type of pollination is called geitonogamy. Second type. Geitonogamy is that in which the pollen from another flower of the same plant. This is one flower, this is another flower, but they are born on the same plant. This flower's anthers pollen will be transferred into this flower stigma. Then it is called geitonogamy. Okay, so that is geitonogamy. Geitonogamy is different from autogamy, where the pollen and the stigma both are of same flower. Geitonogamy, the pollen grains are taken from one of the flower and dropped into the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Xenogamy is the third type of pollination, in which the pollen from another plant's flower are put into the stigma of a flower, but the species should be same. Okay, now agents of pollination. Who will do that? We know that the plants are immobile, and when the plants are immobile, their gametes are also immobile. And when the gametes are immobile, like in most of the other lower plants we have studied, the pollen grains are actually, or the antheridia or anthrazoids are actually transferred with the help of even a single drop of water. But here, what plants we are talking about, they are, most of them are actually land plants in which the pollen grains are not even transferable by water. So they require some type of agent. Now, what type of agents are required? The agents will be depending on the type of flower. So there are two type of agents, abiotic agent and biotic agent. Abiotic agent is, that is non-living agents, which are of two type, either water or wind. Okay? So about that we'll study little later. And the second type of factor are the biotic factor. Biotic factor can be insects, they can be birds, they can be animals, rodents, etc., and they can be large animals or bats even. So there are different type of agents, biotic agents, which can carry the pollination, and abiotic factors are also there. Let us talk about the wind pollination. Pollination by means of wind. Okay, pollination by wind is more common among the abiotic pollination. We have studied that entire gymnosperm are carrying out pollination by wind. But since we are studying about angiosperm, what we have to do with the gymnosperm? So angiosperm also, large number of crop plants, cereal plants are there. They are carrying out their pollination by way of wind. They are generally monocotyledon plants. Okay, the pollination by wind is more common among the abiotic pollination. The wind pollination also requires that the pollen grains are light and non-sticky. The first condition, the pollen grain should be light so that they can easily carried by the wind current, and they should be non-sticky. If they remain sticky, then they will remain stick to the anther only. They will never disperse from there. So they should be non-sticky, and they can be transported by the wind current. They are often possess well-exposed stamen. The stamen should be open. They should be facing outside. They should come out of the flower. Okay. If the stamen are there, which is within the flower, which is covered by the sepals and petals, then the pollination will be very difficult. So most of the cases, they will not have any sepals and petals. Rather, they will have only stamens exposing and the style exposing. Okay. So since we are talking about the male part just now, so their stamens are well exposed so that the pollen are easily dispersed with the wind current. A large, often feathery stigma is there, which is to trap pollen grain. And in both wind pollinating plants, the entire inflorescence come together so that it increases the chances of pollen receptibility. Okay, so large number of flowers will come together and their stigma will gather together so that they will increase the chance. Suppose I throw stone, there is a net, वो वॉलीबॉल का नेट बना देते हैं और उसके अंदर से कंकड़ फेंकने की कोशिश करते हैं. तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम the stone will pass through that net. Only there will be less chances when the net will be touched by the stone or the stone will be touching net. But if we increase the number of threads in the net, बिल्कुल छोटा सा जाली बना दें. Now if we want to throw stones, most of the stones will tie to these threads. So the same way, अगर एक pollen यहाँ पे एक stigma यहाँ लग रहा है तो pollen का यहाँ से निकल जाए कोई उधर से कोई इधर से, there will be rarest of rare event when the pollen would have fallen onto the stigma. But when large number of stigma come together, then not in this तो उस पे नहीं तो इस पे, इसमें तो उस पे, कहीं ना कहीं तो pollen गिर ही जाएगा. So this is what the idea of having entire inflorescence coming together or bunch of flowers coming together. Okay. So now the wind pollinating flowers are often single ovule on each ovary. अगर आपने मक्का देखा है, नहीं मक्के को नहीं देखे, गेहूं देखा है, तो गेहूं की बालियों में क्या है, each seed having one long style attached on it. So the seed is actually first ovule. Ovule तो fertilization के बाद seed बनेगा. So one ovary into one ovule, one style and one stigma. So like that, the entire inflorescence in which number of ovule, and ovule then into ovary on leading to or proceeding to the style and style into the stigma. Okay, so this will be there. So उससे क्या होगा कि the number of stigma and the style will be more so that they will be getting pollinated. Okay, the numerous flower packed into an inflorescence. A smaller familiar example is the corn cob, भुट्टा जो होता है उसके अंदर कई सारे जो है वो फीमेल फ्लावर उनके सबके टसल्स एक साथ बाहर आएंगे. The tassels that you see are nothing but the style and the stigma. Okay, wind pollination is quite common in the grass family, that is cereal crops जिनकी बात हम अभी कर रहे थे. चलिए water pollination की बात करते हैं. Pollination by water is a quite rare and in flowering plants it is limited to only 30 genus. ठीक है, 30 genera, mostly monocot. So both wind pollination and water pollination are common in monocot. Against this, you will recall that the water is the regular mode of transport in the male gamete among the lower plants. Thallophyta तो रहते ही पानी में. Or Bryophyta, though they are living on land, but they require water for pollination. That's why they were known as amphibian. And the same is true with the Pteridophyta. Okay? So it is believed that particularly for the sun, Bryophyte and Pteridophyte, that their distribution is limited because of the need of the water. So these organisms, these plants are found close to the water body. Okay, now बात करते हैं कहाँ पे मिलेंगे flower. Some of the example of water pollinating plants are Vallisneria and Hydrilla, which grow in the fresh water, and Zostera is the seagrass which is found in the sea. Okay, not all aquatic plants are water pollinated. Many of the aquatic plants like lotus, water lily, their flower will be floating on the surface and they are colored and they are attracting the bees and the other pollinators to carry out the pollination. Water hyacinth, it is purple color flower which is exposed outside. Okay, so they are not having pollination by water, but Vallisneria and Hydrilla and Jostora are some of the example where the pollination is done by water. Talking about the Vallisneria, क्या देख रहे हैं आप? Vallisneria, the female flower. कहाँ दिख रहा diagram? Next page. Yeah, yeah, the female flower. So female flower is come on the surface. The blue color is actually shown by water. So this is water, and on the flower is come onto the water surface. Same is the male flower, which also come on the surface, and they release pollen grains. So pollen grains are here. You can see this pollen grain, pollen grain, pollen grain, pollen grain, pollen grain, pollen grain. So these pollen grains are left onto the surface. So they will float with the waves, with the water current, and they will reach up to female flower. Remember that the pollen does not have any structure to move. They are passively carried by the water currents. Okay, so they will be reaching. Chance की बात है, पहुंच गए तो पहुंच गए. And to increase the probability of fertilization, they have to produce large number of pollen grains. Okay. On the other hand, some of the eventually will reach there. In another group of water pollinating plants such as sea grasses, the female flower remains submerged in water. Vallisneria, it was on the floating on the surface. Sea grasses, it remains both male and female flowers in the water only, and they produce large number of male gametes which are having ribbon-like structure. So धीरे 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 वो तैरेंगे passively with the water current, and they may reach up to the female flower. Pollen grains in many of the species are long, ribbon-like, and they are carried passively inside the water, and some of them will reach to the stigma and they will carry out pollination. Another important thing is written, that is, since wind pollinating or water pollinating agent flower, they does not require any agent to welcome. So they are not very much colored. They do not have particular shape and size. They do not produce any nectar. They do not produce even any sort of smell. कुछ भी नहीं है. उनको उनको किसी को कोई अट्रैक्शन देना ही नहीं है, किसी को बुलाना ही नहीं है. So they do not have all these things. So this is a way of reducing the expenses also, and that entire expense will be transferred towards production of large number of gametes. चलिए बात करते हैं. Majority of the flowering plant uses a range of animals for pollination. They may be bees, butterflies, flies, beetles, wasps, ants, moths, birds, sunbird, हमिंगबर्ड एक्सेट्रा, बैट भी है. ठीक है, तो ये सारी चीजें हैं जो पॉलिनेशन करती है. बट इन सब में सबसे ज्यादा पॉलिनेशन करने वाले कौन है? इंसेक्ट्स एंड द पर्टिकुलरली बीज. ठीक है, बट ड्यू टू द ह्यूमंस non-judicious activities where they are continuously sprayed pesticide. The number of butterflies तो खत्म ही हो गई हैं. Now you can't see butterflies. When I was small, I used to see so many butterflies. बट अब तो कहीं दिखती ही नहीं है. दिख जाती है तो इट्स अट्रैक्शन. सारे बच्चे उसकी तरफ भागते हैं और बटरफ्लाई बटरफ्लाई करके. ठीक है. तो इट इज सच अ थिंग. एंड bees also they are greatly reduced because of the use of pesticides. ठीक है. So we must think कि ये सब होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए. If we can reduce it, it's very much good. Insect, particularly bees, are commonly dominating the biotic pollinating agent. Even larger animals such as lemurs, that is monkeys, then arboreal tree-dwelling rodents, गिलहरियां आ सकती हैं, दूसरे और कुछ हो सकते हैं. ठीक है. और इवन reptile like gecko lizard and the garter lizard etc. They have been reported as pollinators. तो ये सब कुछ एग्जांपल्स हैं जो कि पॉलिनेशन करते हैं. Often flowers of the animal pollinating plants are specially adapted to a particular species. So they may be colorful, they may be having some sort of shape. This example is given here, that is Ophrys. तो यहाँ एक केस है जिसके अंदर the one of the petal take the shape of a bumblebee. तो ये भौरा है बेचारा, ये भ्रम खा जाता है. he it thinks that the female partner is there, so he just go there and pseudo copulate with the flower thinking that the female is there, but there is no female, and during this course it shakes the flower and the pollen grains falls onto it. Besides this, there are some of the other examples. जैसे यहाँ पे दे रखा है Amorphophilus, this is the largest flower. It also have a pollination with a particular species which actually lays the eggs there. The laying eggs में दो तीन example और हैं, like some of the moths which are leaving their eggs in the yucca flower. And one of the most common example is there, which we'll study further on chapter 13. You can check it. Both this diagram will also be there, and the diagram of fig is also there. In the fig flower, this particular moth enters through a micropore, एक छोटा सा छेद है, उसमें से वो अंदर घुस जाता है, and it goes and deposits its eggs there. ठीक है. And when the during this course जब वो उधर घूम रहा है, so the male and female flower comes in contact and the pollination is performed, and then the male it will lay their egg, and then the insect will come out. It will forget कि भाई उसने कुछ किया भी है, कुछ अंडे भी छोड़े हैं, but the eggs are very much safe inside the fruit, that is fig. And when the larva hatches and the eggs hatches and larva comes out and they further develop, during that course they eat that fruit itself and their seeds, and they decomposes it, and then they come out and they fly. ठीक है. तो प्लांट का तो पर्पस क्या है, उसको तो पॉलिनेशन कराना है. उसके लिए तो उसको कुछ भी देना पड़े, रिवॉर्ड मे बी फ्रूट, मे बी सीड, जो भी है, लेकिन उसका बाय लार्ज नंबर ऑफ सीड विल बी. तो इनको हम कहते हैं दैट इज रिवॉर्ड. तो यहाँ लिखा है दैट इज फॉर harvesting the reward from the flower, animal visitors comes in contact with the anther and stigma. What are the rewards? Rewards can be pollen grain, rewards can be nectar, rewards can be the various type of microorganisms which are growing because of the nectar, sweetness of the nectar. तो वहाँ छोटे छोटे insects आ जाएंगे, उनको खाने के लिए कई बार birds पहुंच जाती हैं gather. So these are the various type of rewards. And then ये एक सबसे बड़ा reward है where they have laid, they are given the safe place to deposit their eggs. ठीक है. So these all are the various cases. तो यहाँ पे इनको हम कहेंगे one on one relation. ठीक है. Yucca cannot survive without that moth. The fig plant cannot survive without that moth, because if they will not go and deposit their eggs there, there there will be no chance of pollination. ठीक है. So they are one on one relation. That Ophrys flower which we have seen where the one of the petals became similar to that of the female, तो वो नहीं होगा तो वो जाएगा ही नहीं वहाँ, और वो जाएगा ही नहीं तो pollination ही नहीं होगा. कौन करेगा उसका pollination? So these are the various examples where the pollinators are given some sort of attraction, and this attraction can be beneficial to the visitors or may not be. ठीक है. वो फूल बना रहा है वहाँ पे, बेवकूफ बना रहा है उसको, फूल ने फूल कर दिया किसको, दैट बम्बल बी को. ठीक है. So there are some examples. Just few days back we used to have some sort of flowers growing in our campus, सो उनमें इस तरह का फ्लावर था और फायरस जैसा. ओके. Now it is an activity given for you. That is, why don't you observe some of the flowers following the plants which are available in your location: cucumber, mango, people, coriander, papaya, onion, labia, then cotton, tobacco, rose, lemon, eucalyptus. करीब करीब सारे प्लांट हमारे एरिया में मिल जाते हैं. Try to find out which animal visited them to carry out the pollination, how the pollination is taken or done in them, और कब आते हैं वो, कौन से टाइम में आते हैं, दिन में सुबह आते हैं, रात में आते हैं, दिन में आते हैं, कौन से टाइम में आते हैं, ठीक है, which particular season they are coming. So it will be a sort of inquisitiveness in you. It will develop a scientific temperament. It will develop an interest in you. So it is better, it is good, it is आपको अपनी डायरी लेकर के जाना चाहिए. और आजकल तो everyone has got nice mobiles. So you just carry your mobiles, or if you got any zoom camera, you can take and zoom and see how the pollen, how the butterfly is entering, and what all activities are there. And it will be a very interesting, and you can even put it onto the YouTube and other channel. उसको क्या नाम से बहुत सारी जगह हैं जहाँ पे आप उनको डाल सकते हैं, और आप अगर आपका पिक्चर अच्छा है तो you can even earn. So that's all, children, for today. And the next class we shall study about the outbreeding devices, pollen-pistil interaction, double fertilization, seed formation, embryo development, and I think the chapter should get over. Thank you, children. Good day. Enjoy your day.